everybody, and welcome to the channel. In today's video, we are continuing our Student Showcase series, and today's topic is going to be on the point of power, presented by Meghna Badda. We wish to thank our viewers for helping support our channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing, and we also love to hear your comments. If you are new here, please consider subscribing if you are enjoying our content. As a reminder, coming up on October 1st, we have a free webinar with esteemed astrologer Maurice Fernandez talking about the power and the magic of eclipses. So if you'd like to join this free webinar, please click on the link below this video to register. If you'd like to learn more about Kepler College classes, workshops, and webinars, please visit KeplerCollege.org. And without further ado, let's get into the video.
My name is Meghna Badda, and I'm an evolutionary astrologer. Just so y'all know, there's no PowerPoint presentation in this. It's just you and me. I'd like to begin by thanking Kepler College for making this forum available to us budding astrologers, to Stephen Forrest for showing me what's possible with astrology, and to the fabulous and talented Donna Young for encouraging my voice. Historically, it has cost so much to so many for so long to keep astrology's flame alive. I'd like to invite us all to hold gratitude for all the countless being known and unknown, recognized and overlooked, who have and who continue to stoke and keep the flame of astrology alive. And always, always to the divine, the pulsating, throbbing source of life, for access to this path of self-knowledge and self-creation. What a gift, what a blessing. This talk is called Point of Power. Sadhguru, an enlightened master, yogi, and mystic from India, assures us that all creatures except humans are tied on both ends. I imagine these to be both ends of the spiritual evolution spectrum. It's only humans that have the safety of being closed off, no danger of slipping backward on one end, he says, while being wide open on the other. Unlimited possibility, unlimited potential. The gravitational pull of the sun, and in turn the galactic center, holds us securely in orbit while all of space remains wide open to our exploration. And as a Hermetic aphorism reminds us, as above, so below. We too are secure, held by our own spark of light within, our inner sun, with unlimited possibility to grow and evolve in whatever direction our heart desires. Because we're continually evolving, changing, and growing, what you'll hear today is reflective of my current understanding, edited and prioritized for this time frame. The underlying premise of my work is that we are our own best experts. And my work is to help my clients reclaim this inner expertise, this inner authority, their personal point of power. To that end, I invite you to filter what I say through your own life experience. Approach this exploration in the spirit of imaginative play, and let's see what we discover together. If something doesn't make sense, let it marinate. Try it on. If it fits, great. If not, let it go. During the talk, as reflections or questions come up, please feel free to share them in the chat because I do want to hear about your experience. While I'm not sure I'll have time to review or answer them here, I will save the chat so I can reflect upon this and it can truly be a dialogue-ish. I chose this topic because in all the years of working with people, both formally and informally, I've had to come to terms with the limitations of what I can and cannot do in an astrological reading or counseling session. I can be a mirror, help people see themselves better, and to that end, make myself as clean and unobstructed a reflector as possible. I can do my best to interpret the language of the cosmos, a perpetual work in progress, and maybe I can offer some measured advice in specific areas based on that. What I cannot do, as Kaylin described to us in her talk, is make anyone do anything that they don't want to do themselves. Francis Bacon coined the phrase, knowledge is power. So how come all of us smartphone-wielding ninjas or astrologically savvy practitioners have not burst into spontaneous enlightenment? It sounds ridiculous when I put it that way, but in some ways, don't we wish there was a cure-all, a pill for that, for whatever ails us, physical, psychological, emotional, spiritual? Don't we sometimes even think of astrology as that cure-all? There's an allegorical story you may know. I first heard it from Sadhguru. It's about a king, a stereotypically arrogant and powerful king who calls his interior minister after his son returns from a walk, upset that his feet are soiled. Minister, he bellows, all the roads of our kingdom must be immediately leathered so that my son's feet remain unsoiled. The minister, versed in the moods of the king, waited till tempers cooled, then gently suggested, Sire, the cost of leathering all the roads of the kingdom would deplete the coffers. Might I suggest leathering the prince's feet instead? No matter how hard we try, and no matter how much we may like it, paving the roads with leather, no matter how well-intentioned, will never keep us from feeling upset about our soiled feet. Isn't there a saying, the road to hell is paved with leather? I mean, good intentions. If I had $1 for every time I wished my parents or my partner or my neighbors or my government would just act in a sane, rational way, which of course is my way, I'd be a very wealthy woman. But alas, when I need them to be different than they are in order to preserve my sanity and peace, I'm lost. I have no power over my own feeling. I become a puppet in their hands. So what can I, as an astrologer, do? I can present astrological counsel that's responsible, aspirational, that balances truth and kindness, that recontextualizes the circumstances of their lives from a wider perspective of their unique purpose, that reminds them that they are secure on one end, and how and where the universe beckons today and tomorrow. The best I can hope for is that this astrology reading makes them pause, invites them into a deep, introspective, heart-to-heart chat with themselves. And from that talk, they choose to reclaim their inner authority. They respond differently today to the same life circumstances than they did yesterday. Doesn't that make all of us individual humans the single most powerful entities in our lives? That actually no one can make us do anything, that we are our own bosses, the makers of our destiny, our very best own experts, that the point of power lies squarely inside of us, inside our ability to become self-aware, and then from that awareness, respond consciously. Let me say that again. The power is our ability to consciously respond, our ability to consciously respond to whatever happens, any stimulus, any circumstance, situation, being, or thing, both within ourselves, whether it shows up as a feeling, an idea, or a memory, or what happens outside, not in what we experience or attempting to control what we experience, but how we experience it here, behind our eyes, within the bounds of our experience of ourselves. Enlightened beings across cultures and time have returned again and again to the sentiment that power lies within. Lao Tzu synthesizes it beautifully. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. Which do you want? Strength or power? Strength requires the participation of another, willing or unwilling. Power requires only one, the one looking into the mirror of the self. And for those of us who have made the conscious decision to unlock power, astrology is a master key, a catalyst, a rocket ship offering speed and distance. It serves as both guide and guardian. Astrology reflects our deepest longings, our greatest strengths, our most tantalizing detours and pitfalls. It reveals the undeniable challenges we must face and suggestions on how to navigate them. Johannes Kepler, our KeplerCollege's namesake, likened the heavenly motions to a continuous song, a figured music, and the natal chart to the music that impels the listener to dance. That resonates. It reminds me of the Indian ragas, or rag, as I call them in North India, the foundation or the heart of Indian classical music. These 7 ragas are defined by both a collection of pitches and the formula for those pitches, many formulas for those pitches. Literally though, rag means color, and a rag is that which colors the mind with a particular emotion. The 7 classical astrological planets and the 3 recently added to the astrological pantheon seem to reverberate with their own ragas. They color each of our lives with a particular emotion. And the more we can bring ourselves into resonance with those energies, the more symphonically our lives unfold. How the planets color our emotions feels intuitive. When you think of the sun, can you feel its melody, its color, its warmth? How about the moon? How does that color our emotions? Whether you're versed in astrology or not, those 2 lights imprint their melodies on our souls. Today, I'll touch upon some of the core ways I imagine the outer planetary energies from Jupiter to Pluto color our lives. I hope to someday have an opportunity to expand this, to actually embody and enact these energies through our bodies. But for now, a taste. And amuse-bouche. So you know where I'm coming from. I'm an evolutionary astrologer. My greatest influence is Stephen Forrest. I've been grounded in the education from Kepler, and I've learned from countless astrologers. I don't have a list of sources ready for you right now, but if you are interested, you can contact me through my website and I will send them to you. Jupiter, the audacity of hope. Not knowing when the dawn will come, I open every door. Emily Dickinson. In his 2004 DNC address, Barack Obama electrified the nation with his speech, Hope, the audacity of hope. Hope in the face of difficulty, he said, of uncertainty, which he called God's greatest gift to us, a belief in things not seen, a belief that there are better days ahead. The greater benefic, astrology's grantor of wishes, Jupiter's song yearns for a victory. It uncorks our greatest hopes and asks, is this all there is? Is this all I'm capable of? I want more. Jupiter plays loud, tugs at your heart to believe in yourself. The first few times it comes around, maybe we take a leap. It's exciting. It's breathtaking. Whee! Sometimes those hopes are dashed. Who among us has not been afraid to trust a new connection after a heartbreak, or apply for another promising opportunity after being rejected for a few others, or dream a fresh new dream after being disappointed one too many times? Hope is vulnerable. It's heart opening. It's scary. For those of us practicing astrology, we know that Jupiterian stimulus is not as clear cut as the astrological fairy godmother. On some occasions, if we don't have room for the beneficence of Jupiter, Jupiter will make room. The process of making room may look like a wrecking ball through some part of our life, but in the not too near future, there's something more fulfilling. To hope even in the face of disappointment. How many times have we looked back on our lives with gratitude at the things we thought were misfortunes in the moment? A breakup that eventually led to meeting the love of your life, getting fired to a more fulfilling colored career path that shows up. The path to power will test us. It will ask again and again, are you sure you really want this? The Jupiterian song is first and foremost that of opening the heart to our wanting, to our longing, no matter how unreasonable or impractical the world may deem it. So of course, it requires audacity. Are you audacious enough to allow yourself to dream of power? To believe in your ability to claim your personal power? Saturn, the foundation of our dreams. If you have built castles in the air, your work need not be lost. That is where they should be. Now, put the foundations under them. Henry David Thoreau. How many of you have practiced the physical form of yoga? Okay, I can't see any of you, but you know if you have. How does it feel when you hold a posture through the physical discomfort of it? Our body is strengthened, absolutely, but something in us changes. We overcame the mental and psychological resistance to pain. We willingly chose short-term discomfort, and instead of turning that pain into suffering, we turned it into power. That is Saturn's contribution to our point of power, the ability to respond consciously to any stimulus that stretches us and thus turn pain and discomfort into power. What does it require? Focus, perseverance, discipline. It requires fortitude. In yoga, we call this tap or tapas. It literally means heat, as in the extreme pressure of heat applied to smelt gold. That is how we build fortitude. You may recall, a caterpillar is not yet a butterfly after the chrysalis phase. It must pump out its wings, and only then can it fly. Similarly, our gold must be extracted from the ore it's embedded in, because gold is a noble metal. It doesn't corrode. Saturn asks, which of your dreams are not non-corrosive? Non-corrosive to the realization that there's a limited amount of time, a limited amount of energy, and a limited amount of resources available to you in this physical reality. Where will you allocate them? Saturn ties in Jupiter's lesson. Have you chosen the right dream to pursue? It gives us the ability to climb tall mountains, but is the one you're climbing the right one for you? Stephen Forrest calls Saturn the great work of the life, and further says, in the great work, Saturn asks, do you want to be depressed or exhausted? Not happy sounding choices. If we follow our dreams, there will be exhausting work ahead. Focus, perseverance, toil, resisting the temptation to party Friday night when you have a big talk to give on Saturday. If our dream is to climb the mountain, but instead of training, we choose to watch movies about mountaineers, we're resigning ourselves to depression because inspiration is no substitute for preparation. Saturn is the Lord of consequences. We reap only what we sow, and we will reap whatever we have sown. Saturn is limits, boundaries. It asks us to prioritize. We may be able to climb multiple mountains in this life, but for which ones are we willing to burn, to endure the pressure of extreme heat? Which of our dreams is non-corrosive? Which is our true gold? Limits illuminate our strengths. They ask us to recognize and bet on our gifts, our capabilities, instead of lamenting those that we don't have. I'd like to introduce you to a client of mine. Let's call him Omar. He's an immigrant from a lower middle class family. He joined his family business after college, and in one risky decision that resulted in a huge financial loss, he almost bankrupted himself and his entire family. In the midst of this overwhelming stress, Omar attended a free 3-day seminar on investing in foreclosures. It was the end of 2007, the cusp of a housing market crash. This seminar taught him how to get 0% interest credit cards, and he charged $40,000 in real estate education on these brand new cards. You can imagine his family's shock and dismay. Are you kidding me? Omar is an Aries rising. Mars's lesson is courage in the face of fear. Omar had two choices, either spend his life avoiding risk or face his fear head on. Jupiter was whispering in his ears. He didn't have money, but he chose to believe in himself. Jupiter wants a big bet. Omar answered Jupiter's call. On the day Omar attended his first official seminar, transiting Jupiter conjoined progressed Mars in a partile conjunction to his natal midheaven. Omar said to me, I was willing to flip burgers to bring me and my family back out of the hole, but these guys taught me how to flip houses. The first home Omar's family owned in the US was an investment property, a foreclosure they bought as a result of this education. All this did not happen overnight. There were lessons along the way, even hard lessons. The first few years as Saturn transited the sixth, mentors, teachers, and daily work. He was learning and he was doing. He wrote 120 offers before his first offer was accepted. Omar never gave up. He paid off all the credit cards in the very first year. And today, Omar has conducted over 1,000 real estate transactions, including flipping houses, buying and holding long-term and vacation rentals, and he lends money to other investors. Omar claimed his point of power. He faced his fear, had the audacity to believe in himself in the toughest of circumstances, and with the focus, perseverance, and dedication, he rose to fulfill the promise of his chart. Uranus, the rebel genius. You shall no longer take things at second or third hand, nor look through the eyes of the dead, nor feed on the scepters and books. You shall not look through my eyes either, nor take things from me. You shall listen to all sides and filter them from yourself. Walt Whitman, The Song of Myself. Uranus is the planet of individuation. Individuation being the process of forming a personality, an identity separate from those around us, parents, family, society, culture, all of those. Not necessarily something we put on, but something we discover by molting the residue of what others have left behind. In this process, there will be enormous pressure to conform and punishment for not conforming. It will come from those nearest to us. They will beseech us to compromise. I have sinned a rapturous sin in a warm and flamed embrace. Thus begins the Persian poet Farrukh Farrokhzad's graphic poem, Sin. Published without her permission in the Shah's Iran of 1955, around the age of 20. The first Uranus square. She was the daughter of a military colonel in the Shah's regime, married to a man in a very conservative religious family. In publishing this poem, Farrukh was punished. She lost both her marital and birth families, access to her only child, and even her sanity for some period. Her lover was the editor of a prestigious literary magazine. She'd gone to him to be published. Did she really believe this particular poem was going to stay a secret? In her poem Captive, written before sin, she had described her life. I think about it, and yet I know I will never be able to leave this cage, even if the warden should let me go. I've lost the strength to fly away. Did the inner rebel genius figure out a way to escape the cage? Uranus is the feared lord of thunderbolts and lightning, but isn't Uranus simply the alignment and realignment mechanism of our inner selves? What does it cost to be misaligned with our hearts? What does it cost to follow our hearts? When faced with such a choice, how does one choose? Uranus asks us to examine our lives. What have we sacrificed in the name of responsibility, financial security, keeping the peace in the family? There's no judgment here. These are daunting questions. They may be triggered by external crises or internal crises of faith. And once again, there are no glib responses. There are only soul-searching introspection. Neptune, divine trust and surrender. Why are you so enchanted by this world when a mine of gold lies within you? Rumi. So far, the journey has been about how we interface with the world. With Neptune, there's a turning inward. Another layer of reality entirely unattached to the worldly. Neptune is the mystical realm, silent. And the more we turn inward, the louder the silence gets. Neptune is not easily accessible. When I think I have a hold on it, it disappears. And as I sat working for Neptune on this talk, I just got quieter. I waited. I remembered that Neptune is the planet of seekers, of artists and mystics, those anointed by the muse and those seeking the divine. I know Neptune's influence personally, but it is not easy to articulate. Neptune lives as our spiritual longing, that in us which longs for the throbbing, pulsating source of life. In the lives of most of us alive today, it harmonizes with Pluto. Let me explain. Sometime around 1942, Neptune fell into a sextile with Pluto. And they've stayed within all of that sextile, mutually stimulating each other for the last all the years until right now. In fact, they're still there. They'll disengage from this embrace sometime soon, but until they do, it's hard to separate their mutual influence, which means that our psychological reckoning, Pluto, is inseparable from our spiritual evolution, Neptune. We cannot pursue one without the other. The story of a Jain warrior king turned yogi named Bahubali depicts this relationship between Neptune and Pluto. Because it mythologizes a man who actually lived, this story has many forms. My preferred source is Sadhguru. Once upon a time, there lived an ambitious warrior king. After many wars, including one against his own brother, he came awake to the death and destruction he was causing and stopped. He stood still with complete attention and deep meditation. For 1 year or 14, the lore is unclear. Through the intensity of his practice, many attachments dropped. The man who wanted to conquer the world stood there, ready to bow to the smallest crawling creature, but he had not attained. He stood silent, not knowing why. One day, a yogi came and looked. Bahubali held his silence, packing all his questions and longing into a single teardrop. The yogi understood Bahubali's question. I have renounced my kingdom, my family, my palace, my comforts. I bow even to the smallest insect. What more do I have to do? And the yogi answered, you've become a wonderful human being. You can bow even to an insect. But are you willing to bow to your brother? Gone are the days when you can just be an angry sage, harboring judgment and hate, and expect to attain nirvana. There is no release without a reckoning. Bahubali, now conscious, attained. Some say he went to Mount Kailash. Some say he attained in the moment. My experience is that Neptune and Pluto fuel each other. Sometimes a particularly difficult emotional stimulus is softened and melted away through spiritual practice. And other times, a shadow work session allows me to settle deeper into meditation. To enter the realm of Neptune, we need Neptunian guides. Faith in ourselves here is transformed into the faith in the divine. This is where we surrender everything we believe we've gained and recognize that we are a tiny fleck in time and space, hurtling on a tiny ship also hurtling through a vast, pulsating darkness. This is where we release the helm of the ship that we have so painstakingly earned the right to hold. As Luke Skywalker in Star Wars Episode 4, spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it, hears the voice of his deceased teacher, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Let go of the controls and trust the Force, Luke. Pluto, the final frontier. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. Dante Alighieri. In entering Pluto's realm, we're cautioned. Once again, we are asked to surrender, but this time, the precious hope, the hope that brought us here, must be burned away. This is the hottest of all the fires, the fire which promises gold. Recently, I was in an experiential Pluto class. Someone was sharing a personal transformation he was undergoing in the face of a recurring, frightening trauma trigger, aka a Plutonian stimulus. As he described his experience, a Plutonian taboo surfaced within me. And instead of the heat of shame and the knee-jerk response to stuff it back down, I felt exhilarated, enlivened, effervescent, like a bursting bottle of champagne. I saw in my mind's eye the floor of a dark cave, pivoting sideways, revealing a glowing, bright, golden light streaming upward. Something in me knew that I was ready to release shame, to integrate that part of myself back into the whole, and that this was just the tip of the iceberg. More integration was coming. I welcomed it. For too long, I had stuffed parts of myself inside, and here was the glow of the gold within. I spent the entire day in effervescence, full of energy, bubbling over. Do you recognize that feeling? How many of you have experienced that energizing feeling of releasing a tightly held and feared taboo? Like exhaling after unknowingly holding your breath. Maybe a long-held judgment you dropped. Maybe a feeling after a particularly poignant astrological reading. Can you access that feeling now? That is what we're after. That's the power I'm talking about. The power we invest in locking up our taboos in Pluto's cave inhibits this effervescence, this vitality, our eros. And what is the point of life if not to reclaim the sweet, joyful, energizing feeling of vitality, of aliveness, our eros? Isn't that the true fountain of youth, the holy grail of every mythic quest? Pluto is the lord of the underworld, of hell. Needless to say, that's the fiery hot intensity of shame, guilt, fear that lurks as wounds inflicted and experienced, sexual kinks, blasphemous beliefs. It is not the realm to be approached callously, too much too fast, and it can debilitate. In order to survive, some amount of repression is built into the system. We wouldn't have the repression mechanism if it weren't necessary. But when plutonian trauma resurfaces, it offers transformation, redemption. What lies under the world? The riches we have to dig for: gold, diamonds, oil. Pluto rules them all. Thus, Pluto is also known as the Lord of Riches. Pluto transits bring the possibility of healing, of reclaiming our life force. What greater riches can we hope for? In repressing our feelings, we repress our light, our inner light, the sun, the power source of the solar system, and that of our birth chart, our vitality, our self-driving, energy-producing mechanism, our inner light. We're here to reclaim that. Make no mistake, in our bid for personal power, we're signing up to encounter and integrate all of this, but we're not alone. We have the guidance and guardianship of astrology and all those who held it aloft before us. Choosing the path of power is not always easy, nor is it always linear. It's a path that we will likely have to commit to over and over again. It starts, it stops, it spirals. It seems to go back over the same ground again and again, meander through mundane and intense inner and outer terrain, but the rewards of this path. Power is self-awareness plus conscious response. None of it is easy. We started this talk remembering the price paid by astrologers for their heresy of seeing what is, the heresy of continuing to tend the flame that burns away the veils of illusion, that offers tools to become the authors of our own lives. Of course, they were punished for it. Their counsel helped people reclaim personal power. How was that going to help the regime maintain control? Yesterday, I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today, I'm wise, so I'm changing myself. Rumi. Namaste.